Hi,
Kind of
hi.
popping my head along to the beat there. How you doing today, Tim?
I'm just fine, thanks. It doesn't get bored or something. The music that you thought at some point you'll get used to it, but
It helps, I think, that it is a 1 minute clip that we hear once a week. I think it could get boring in higher doses than that, but that's maybe just the right amount. And it keeps the beat simple, so it's not too much. Yeah.
just, yeah. If you play it on repeat for half an hour, you've ruined it for
That would be
the rest of
enough.
your
That
life.
would be
Yeah,
enough.
yeah,
Let's not
yeah.
do that. We'd have to find a new intro track to just not drive ourselves crazy as much as anything. How have you been recently, Tim? How are the beautiful Netherlands doing?
I've been well, thanks. Yeah, it's pretty good here. It's like the weather is tolerable. It's like a Dutch summer, so you get a bit of rain and a bit of sun, but that's pretty good.
It's nice.
And
It's
then
nice to have a bit of rain. I'm always happy to see some rain, which maybe it's why I've ended up staying in Seattle so long. Uh, so you've been going camping recently?
yeah, so not the past weekend, but the week before that, I was camping for 4 days, and then just last weekend I actually saw Scott. We was visiting in Amsterdam, so we
Oh,
went
cool.
out with a couple of folks to have dinner together, and yeah,
That's
chilling.
lovely. I quite like Amsterdam. I think it's a really lovely city, and yeah, I'd like to see more stuff in the Netherlands one day. Although I've seen some more of the Netherlands, out of a train car window from Amsterdam going to other places, but haven't really stopped anywhere else in the Netherlands for very long.
It's,
Yeah, but you've been going a
dude,
lot. You've been going camping pretty frequently recently. What is it that's drawing you out into the wilderness so often?
it's just like I like to have like some place to hike which isn't like light industrial area or mostly built up or has some trees that weren't planted where they are. So if you want any of
Yeah,
that, you should go abroad.
yeah.
I've 2 weeks ago I was in the Ardennes and I woke up to a wolf
Nice.
howling at 5 in the morning. So
Ooh.
that was pretty good. Yeah.
Was
So
it was it howling to rally other wolves to attack your campsite?
it was distant enough that I felt safe to go back to sleep, but
All
it
right, that's
was
good.
quite
That's good.
interesting. So,
That's cool. Yeah, I don't think I've ever been woken up by a wolf howling. I've really been woken up by coyotes, which I don't know if you've ever heard coyote cries, but they can be quite disturbing. It can sometimes sound like human children screaming in a way that can be very disturbing to listen to. Yeah, particularly if
I
you
can
don't know
imagine.
what you're hearing.
And like coming out of the dark and it's got a really different feel to it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, good fun. I'm glad you made it back to civilization without being devoured by wolves or coyotes. Uh, what's our news for the week?
So in terms of news for the week, we are, as I pretty much predicted last week, still in the middle of doing a release. But we do have a new blog that I can already share with you. So that is this one on post-quantum cryptography, where we go into detail on how you can already now analyze what kind of cryptography you're using, such that you are better prepared the moment that quantum computers come out and might potentially break whatever cryptography you are using and then leave you vulnerable. So you can
Yeah.
take action now and then be better prepared later.
Yeah, or even if it's not necessarily quantum supremacy trashing all encryption, but just a vulnerability is discovered in one of the algorithms you might use for TLS, and you might need to switch for you know some reason that is maybe not as profound as all encryption or most encryption being compromised. Could still be good to. I mean, heck, you could run this and easily find a place where you're using just an older encryption standard than you thought you were. So this is broadly valuable, even if you didn't happen to be worried about post quantum just yet.
Yeah. No, so there's a nice collection of recipes that we've just put out as well. And then, recommend that you have a read and then see from there what applies to your software as well. So then, also new is that, of course, like I said, we are in the middle of doing a release. So this is the new Open Rewrite 8.59.0 that's coming out. We're still planning the write-up of everything that's new and put that on our socials and our Slack channel. So keep an eye out for those. One thing I can already tell you that went is a change that I'm quite pleased with, because I managed to do this all by myself. Where we weren't
right.
previously able to parse Helm charts because of those silly curly braces that you see over here, which kind of broke our YAML parser.
Right.
But we find a way around it. So instead of breaking it and not being able to do anything at all, you now are able to parse your YAML files as usual and just see those elements, not as something that is like an identifiable LST element, but as something that will actually allow you to otherwise transform those files as needed. So keep an eye on for that, because we had a few folks interested in this issue specifically. So I'm glad to have that make it in.
Nice work, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. And then also new, of course, is the linked builds of the OpenRewrite Maven and Gradle plugins, and wrapped up into Rewrite Recipe Bomb. We might be doing a new patch release still, but we will keep you posted there. So keep an eye out on all of those. And that's it in terms of news for this week. With that, I think we can move on to introducing our guest of the week.
Yes, that brings us to our guest, Mohammed Aboullaite from Spotify. Mohammed is a community catalyst and a true open source believer who has contributed to a wide variety of open source projects. He's also a Java champion, a Docker captain, and a Google developer expert for cloud technologies. And he was a speaker, and I think most importantly, he was a speaker at the last year's Code Remix Summit with the topic that we'll be discussing today. And he made a Maven plugin, or contributed to a Maven plugin that will play tracks from Spotify when you're doing long builds. So please, everyone, welcome to the... Whoops. Tim clicked add, and I clicked, which made it into remove. So we added and then removed Mohammed to the program. Welcome, Mohammed.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, glad to have you. So, I mean, which I just reading your bio, I'm curious, which is higher rank, Java captain or Java champion or Docker captain? Like, what is the which?
So in my Twitter bio, I said that I'm a DJ, and DJ basically means I'm a Docker and Java developer. So it's hard to pick. So I passed.
I like that, and that really fits in multiple senses of the word, since you're bringing music to people's Maven builds as well. So you are a DJ in almost every sense of the word. Yeah.
So fun fact, the idea behind that plugin, not the whole plugin, but integrating Spotify to it, came from Code Remix.
Oh,
so
really?
me and Josh were in Code Remix in Miami. Mm-hmm. And then we went for dinner. Mm-hmm. And then we were discussing Spring AI and all of that. And we were doing generating the binary from GraalVM. And then he showed me the plugin. I said, I'm aware. It's like, oh, what about if there was an integration with Spotify? I was like, okay, let me think about it. Then I went back, hacked something up, pushed it, and then it got merged. But it's the whole idea came from Code Remix, which is basically a great conference, and also
glad you think
a great thing to be at conferences, to meet the community, have those fun hack ideas that you can grab from all the knowledge as well that you get from being at those conferences. So anyone that's still hesitating about being at conferences and meetups at least, or anything, please make sure to join.
Yeah, it's great fun to meet and talk to people who you otherwise wouldn't. I mean, you just have conversations that you're just not likely to have over Slack or a GitHub issue or what have you. Yeah, that's great fun. So I haven't tried this plugin yet, although now I feel like I absolutely have to. So if I already have Spotify open and I'm listening to music or a podcast and I start a Maven build that uses your plugin and your integration, is it going to change what I'm currently playing, or is it going to play another song at the same time? I mean, I'm curious what the behavior there is.
So you can pick in the Maven setup. You can pick what playlist track you want to listen to, and that would be your context that you would be listening to when actually playing. So the context would change. Yes. So the session would basically be new ones from the plugin that you from the plugin configuration.
Is it
And
at all
they're
contextual about like what phase of the Maven build I'm in? Like we have like something with like a steady marching tempo for the build, and then it does something else for the test, and if the test fails, it switches into like a sad funeral dirge or like a wah wah.
We're not there yet, but yeah, could be
One
I
day.
could hack as well.
Wonderful, wonderful. Tim,
and
I talked over
there's
you.
this no, there's a small snippet in the docs as well with like a Spotify track number, and I was kind of curious to see where it leads. I was kind of sort of half expecting like a rickroll going on there, but I can assure you it's not. So safe to use
Unless you
and
want
just
that.
as is.
You can pick any from the Spotify catalog, rest assured.
So I'm really interested in this subject of continuous profiling. Unfortunately, when we had the Code Remix Summit, I wasn't able to attend your talk, although I find the idea very, very interesting. So I'm glad I get this personal session just for me to discuss the topic. I mean, I am used to doing profiling for performance of applications, usually after someone has complained about something. Like,
Yeah.
hey, this thing is unacceptably slow. And so then I go and do a one-off investigation where I'm like, okay, is my YourKit license up to date? Do I got to go update this? How do I connect to the Java agent? And then I'm like, okay, I finally got a trace, and I'm looking at my flame chart, and I dig into it, and maybe I identify a critical path somewhere in there, and
Yep.
hopefully make a code change, and then forget all of that for 4 or 5 months until the next time something like that comes up and I have to do it again. But you're suggesting there might be a better way than sporadically doing it only after a problem has come up. Is that is that right?
Well, it's I can't say it's a better way, but it's a
Sure.
continuous way at least.
Yes.
So the whole idea is basically the one-off thing that you mentioned that you do
Hmm.
when someone complains. It's
Hmm.
basically something that's going to be incorporated within the developer flow
Hmm.
in some way or another. Meaning that, as you exactly described, you have an issue, you go to the three basic suspects. You check the metrics, graphs, memory, and all of that, CPU consumption, all of that. You check the logs. If there is something wrong happening, you go to traces, trying to figure out what's happening. But once you consumed and followed all those paths, then you go step underneath and try the profiling to know what method is causing this, why this specific method is basically consuming all that CPU or memory usage and all of that. So that's the idea behind profiling.
Hmm. Hmm.
What's emerged recently is the continuous piece of it, and it's fundamentally different from traditional profiling in one single piece. Is that the overhead is very minimal. So that's why we call
That was one of the
continuous.
first things I was going to ask about. That there's noticeable overhead when you attach most instrumentation to do profiling. What's different in this case?
So the tools has evolved,
Hmm.
and in both in terms of agents, but also the technologies that is available in the kernel, specifically the Linux kernel,
Hmm.
and that's both the agents or the kernel piece, which is powered by eBPF, basically add minimal overhead. Most of it goes up to 2%, which is
Hmm.
still compared very minimal compared to traditional profilings. So
Right.
with the minimal overhead
Hmm.
comes the continuous piece, because we weren't able to do it previously because of all the memory it adds and all the overhead and
Right.
noisy neighbor. But now with the minimal overhead, we can go that step further of getting that continuous flow of information when we can,
Hmm.
because the goodness, all the things that we get out of it are far outweigh the additional overhead that you pay, which is the 2%. Because you
Totally.
get that all this information, and the amount of information is going to be problematic as well, because you're getting a lot of stuff that you can get.
Right.
We can discuss that probably in another question, but
Yeah.
you get all that information, but that minimal overhead and all the insights that you get outweigh the additional 2%.
Yeah, yeah, very, very interesting. So when you're doing this continuous profiling, are you doing this on every instance of every service all the time, or do you choose like a subset of instances that you profile? Like how's the distribution work there?
It depends, as famously we know
Of course, of
in the
course.
realm of software engineering, right? I think it depends on the need as well.
Yeah.
The the problem, as I mentioned, is the amount of data that we get, and then how you
Right.
manage the data is one of the the most important question, I would say, from the continuous profiling bit. Once you had the all flow in there, why? Because the simplest way of profiling is getting the sampling profiling, which is you are getting information out of 100 milliseconds, 200 milliseconds, and the amount of information you collect, you're collecting basically information about every bit that is running into your cluster or node. So the amount of information is huge, and how
Yeah.
you want to filter that, store it, but also remove all the noise and only keep the important information is something that you need to invest to, but also you need to pay for, because
Right.
storage is something that you need to pay for. The people that's going to manage that flow is also the team that is managing it, also something that you need to pay for. So it
Hmm.
comes with a cost. It's not cost free.
Of course.
Well, you get all that data, and then
Uh-huh.
you need to make sense out of it. And the other problem is how to make the data that you have actionable.
Hmm.
So back to your question, it depends on the maturity of the team as well, because it's something new. So it's the team needs to be mature. Because if it's going to be another thing, that another dashboard that you go to it every now and then, you won't see as much insights. A flow that we basically have is you introduce the changes probably yesterday, you come the next day, and then you see if there is anything changed, and then you can see that's an increase in CPU, and then you go and check the changes in that method that you introduced basically increased the consumption of that CPU. So you go and check that and see, oh, it impacts, actually it's added this amount of milliseconds of CPU consumption, it's added this amount of memory consumption, and you try to reason about it. So you have this continuous flow, which is a continuous feedback. And as we know, the most important thing in software engineering is the feedback.
Yes.
The feedback is fast and continuous. The most time we save, and the most like
Absolutely.
the yeah the delivery is much more faster.
Yeah, so because yeah, if there's any delay, then you've already moved on to some other issue and context
Correct.
switched
Yeah.
and been like, okay, wait, something I did a month ago was slow. What even was that? I don't remember what I did last weekend, much less
Yeah.
three projects ago. So I'm curious about so many different aspects of this. What are some of the wins you've got out of this? Like we've described some of the costs already
Yeah.
in terms of what you have to invest in just raw materials and in changing team culture and some of these other things. What have been the upsides of this practice?
So something I touched upon is you make it continuous, so you understand the changes that you made. What is the impact in terms of
Yeah.
the performance of your application, the
Sure.
resources consumption, and all of that. So that's one gain. The other one is hopefully we are more into uh, proactive avoidance of the incidents,
Yes.
because every bit that changed, every memory leak that is slowly consuming your memory until you have this out of memory exceptions, because your container is basically
You
having
notice it
some
before it
threshold.
causes a problem. Yeah.
Exactly. So you can see that the memory is slowly going up. So we can take a proactive measure to avoid that. So we're tackling incidents before they become actually incidents. So we're tracking the issues uh, before they become incidents, and we are in this proactive mindset rather than reaction to
Mhm.
it.
How
And
long has this kind of practice been in place on your team now?
I think for a few years, I believe.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So everyone's pretty well adapted to it. And you were on the team before this, right?
Yeah.
So you remember a time before and after. Have you have you either seen in your metrics or felt just in your day-to-day experience of the job that this has made things more peaceful, more predictable, like fewer outages, fewer complaints, fewer calls in the middle of the night? Like are you a more chill and relaxed person now than you were, years ago before this practice happened?
Well, incidents still happen, to be
Of
honest, but
course, of course.
less frequent than it was.
Sure.
We also have this a lot of initiatives aside for it to how we can improve our on-call processes, how we can improve the reliability on our systems. That is organization-wide initiatives,
Yeah.
but part of it was basically that and how we can get more metrics, improve, being more on the proactive side rather than the reactive side, and all the standard practices of okay, this incident happened, why we didn't catch it, can we have any measure. So it's as I mentioned earlier, it's kind depends on the team, depends on the maturity, and you have the tools. You just need to remove all the noise and then
Mm,
gather the stuff that helps you get insights and have, more importantly, actionable insights, so we can, oh, you see this, you know that is something wrong is happening, so we can react to it before it become an incident or an outage, basically.
yeah. Yeah, talking about removing noise is a really crucial part of it, since you can be, even small systems can easily produce massive amounts of telemetry data. What are
Yeah.
some of the things you do to to find the signal in all of this stream of information you have?
So we are primarily, so what we do is whatever changes we made, we go, because with the tools that are available, you can go back and do time travel and compare
Yes.
the specific span of period. So we can
Hmm.
see, oh, the changes that we introduced yesterday compared to today introduced this amount of latency, this amount of memory, this amount of that. So why this actually happened? So we always try to ask why this actually happened and
Yes.
go back and try to track to the line of the method or line of the code that caused basically that. So having
Hmm.
that insight is really important. But you want to start from something that gives you the bigger picture, which is go back and try to compare and get why, try to answer why this happened, and then you go the five whys. Why this actually happened? Oh, this basically there is a CPU increase. So why I changed this yesterday? So what caused basically on the changes that we have? Because sometimes PRs have multiple small pieces here and there. Pinpointing which one basically causes that, trying to understand if it's actually an issue that's a normal side effect or normal behavior that comes out of that change. So trying to including that as part of daily process. Once you have this process set up, it's become really easy. So you go compare, and then if there is an issue, you can catch it. If not, you just like continue with your day as normal. But
Yeah.
make it part of the process, having that macro view in the beginning that gives you an insight, and then you can drill down to go to the line that's basically introduced whatever something that you notice that is kind of outlier behavior that you want to pinpoint and try to react to.
Have you ever been able to, like, measure, like, cost savings from this? Because I mean, I imagine if you're like code that you're continually profiling, even without like incidents coming up or avoiding incidents, like it's just going to be better performing. You're going to need fewer resources. You're not going to need as many instances. The instances are not going to be as large, and it's obviously a very difficult thing to measure the resources that you don't consume versus if you had made a whole different set of choices, or had allowed small inefficiencies to fester over time. But I'm curious about measuring the impact of this. Are you able to go to management and say, like, hey, our operational costs are, millions of dollars less a year because of this practice we have?
Some teams manage to save that amount of money,
Uh-huh.
combining that with different type of measures in order to
Hmm.
save that amount of money. But yes, that's true. But it's not in the amount of millions. It's like say
Right.
amount of hundreds of dollars from our services because
Sure.
of the way our services behave. We don't have we're basically containerized application with a database, a
Sure.
storage. We manage a different set of services within my team. You can
Sure.
imagine Spotify is a large organizations with different teams that have hundreds of services.
Right.
But yeah, cost saving is one of the big wins because
Hmm.
you continuously improving and tweaking and enhancing your application in terms of performance and execution. You
Hmm.
can basically see that the amount of resources it needs basically trims down.
Hmm.
Part of it not only tracking the previous or the changes that you made to the previous performance, but you can also continuously try to, oh, why we're having this spike. Can we
Yeah.
basically improve the heap? Can we improve the CPU
Right.
consumption for this method and all of this? So it's not only tracking changes, but also improving the code that you have and making it more performant and using less resources. So that's a win. And the less resources you use, the more space you make for either backing in other applications or just like freeing up some of the resources, and you're pay less for your cloud provider or your infrastructure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, very compelling. I'm interested in the circumstances that led up to you adopting these practices. Was the team in a state of crisis over performance issues? Was this like a frequent annoyance? Like, what made you guys decide to embark on this journey? Was it an opportunity for improvement? Like things are already pretty good, but they could be better. I'm curious for maybe some of our listeners or viewers to hear your story of the time before continuous profiling and see their own situation there and be like, oh, maybe this really would be a thing for me, rather than being like, oh, these guys are so sophisticated and advanced, they're so far ahead of us, we could never do that.
It's team by team basis basically.
Hmm.
Some teams don't use it. Some teams like just wanted, oh, things can be improved, and it's part of, as I mentioned, the continuous improvements on our
Right.
performance of our application, because we have an org-wide initiative to improve that. So part of it was, why not looking at this one, see how we can benefit from it basically. And then it started as an experiment, and then we shared our learnings. Some teams like went the same way, and then we shared basically learnings and experiences and all of that. So it's not one size fits all kind of
Sure.
technology. Some teams would benefit from it. Some teams would make more noise that they need to. Some teams
Hmm.
are way ahead and they have the three pillars of observability, the metrics, the logs, and all of that are sufficient for them. They are stable, so that you don't need another metric that they yet need to maintain and look at and
Hmm.
enhance and all of that. So it's not an answer to every problem that you have, but it could be one
Sure.
of the answers that
Okay.
can help you improve. And some of the team find it helpful, some didn't, which is fine.
Sure. So what are the circumstances that predict it being helpful? Like it's clearly been helpful for your team. What
Yeah.
situation were you in before adopting this practice that led to you being like, we could benefit from this?
So we had a service that is, or a few services that were legacy, and we're trying to improve. We were alerting more than we should, and we were trying to improve the on-call process, basically how we can minimize that, how we can make the on-call process more enjoyable by limiting the amount of incidents and the amount of alerts, but also the users, make them experience some more enjoyable experience. So it started as a wide initiative to improve the reliability of our systems, which involved redesigning the applications and all of that, but also improving the underlying monitoring pieces. And part of it was to check the profiling bit and how we can improve it. And then the continuous profiling came as kind of the next step for us to look at and see how we can basically incorporate it, have it, get buy-in basically, because it's going to be something that we need to invest at until the team is confident that it brings value. What are the metrics that we're going to try to get the buy-in from up leadership and upper management, that if it brings value, this is what we noticed, and putting those hypotheses and all of that and running the experiments. So yeah, it was basically part of a whole reliability slash improvement movement that we were having.
And this reliability or improvement movement, I am very interested in the way that software organizations change for the better. Was
Yeah.
this movement kind of like driven from the top? Was there like a VP pushing for this? Was there a distinguished engineer? Was this a groundswell of ICs on various teams? Like, what was the origin of this modernization, continuous improvement movement?
I don't know for sure. It
Fair
started
enough.
before my time.
Yeah.
I find it there. So probably there was an upper push probably that comes from a need that our on-call team had enough and wanted some way
Yeah.
to improve
Wanted
that.
some peace.
There was a lot of people that were complaining from being on call, especially that
Yeah.
in Europe, it's more important, especially if you get paged during the night, you're not allowed to work the next day. You need to get that hours, 8 hours of sleep. So basically, if you are get paged during the night, you are not working the next day. So that's from a business point of view is impactful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's basically draw from it. It made sense from a business point of view, but also from an engineering point of view.
So regulation to improve employee quality of life leads to better business practices and a better business overall. Who would have
Yeah.
thought? Maybe we shouldn't deregulate everything. Yeah, that's wild. That's wild.
And
So were you able
and
to
if
connect? Oh, go ahead, Tim.
now I was gonna say, like, you've of course been telling folks about your experiences with this at various conferences over the past couple months, years even. Have you had any feedback on folks that have taken it up since?
I was surprised of some people that were already implementing some of it and were looking for real insights. They have some challenges and we're trying to basically see how we are implementing it, what are the lessons learned, how they can tackle this specific topic, and the thing that comes every now and then, should we go with this tool? We're experimenting with this one. What do you think about this tool? So the tooling is the one part, and then basically what are the metrics that you look at from all this data? What are your process, basically how you can improve it? So yeah, a lot, it's getting a lot of insights, and more people are getting interested in basically understanding how it works, and especially that the tooling has evolved a lot compared to what it was earlier. I was surprised when I was preparing for the talk that it's not a new technology. It's been around since 2010, basically,
Sure.
when Google introduced it. So it's almost 15 years old technology.
Uh-huh.
But it's just like it gained that momentum when we've seen
Yeah.
a lot of open source, and both open source and commercial products that are basically pushing for it. Not only the big ones, but become more democratized and accessible for everyone.
Yeah, yeah. So earlier you had mentioned that some of the impetus for this, or that you was improving user experience. Have you been able to connect this to improved user experience? I mean, obviously, the thing not crashing because it ran out of memory is improved user experience. But like, I don't know, did like customer complaints about latency go down, or anything like that? Were you able to have measurable or just informal feedback that users are happier with the service and the way it's running these days?
We have we are one of the most latency sensitive services. We have one of the most latency sensitive services,
If you could
and
say
correctly.
what is your service that you run?
So
If that's not like a secret or anything.
no, it's not. So we empower the infrastructure that, let's say, empowers the smart assistant integration in Spotify. So we have
Mm-hmm.
Alexa, Google Assistant, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine that when you request something, you want it to play as fast as possible. If you say, for
Totally.
example, "Hey Siri, play music on Spotify," you want
Yeah.
it to snap really
Yeah.
fast.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes. There's few requests that goes back and forth between different backends, and also it comes to the Spotify app on those devices, and then before it starts playback. So we want to keep that to a minimum.
Mm-hmm.
And so the faster, one of the business metrics is basically how fast it gets to play.
Yeah.
So having that much, we have SLOs with the partners, and we want to always keep that. And it escalates if we go beyond that level. We want to keep track of the request to playback, and we have other business metrics that we track. So the less latency, the better for our services. So it's not only an improvement thing, but also a business thing that we need to have, and we have agreements with the partners and service levels that we need to respect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That makes a lot of sense. Tim, I sense that you had to say.
It feels very I don't know. It does really connect with me because I keep yelling at my speaker when it either takes too long to play the song I want, or takes too long to stop playing the song I very much did not tell it to play. You want to have that quick feedback there where you just, no, stop it, stop. Yeah.
Is it a speaker connected to Spotify that you're shouting at?
Yes. Very much so.
Has it become more responsive to your shouts over the past few months?
It's working decently, I would say, but it's maybe the problem is that I try to. It's in the bathroom, and when I'm taking a shower, sometimes you want to have this one song to wake up to, and it always, I don't know, doesn't quite understand me when I'm yelling from the shower. Maybe that's a problem.
That does sound like a challenging circumstance at the best of times.
That's such a niche case, Tim.
maybe, but I'd like it to work, and I appreciate your efforts to at least make it quick.
Yeah, something faster. You could at least take more tries at it before you get tired of it. That's really cool. What are, I mean, dealing with performance traces and instrumentation and doing that kind of analysis is just not something that that every engineer has personal experience with. Like often, there might be like the one performance wizard on the team who, like, when there's a problem, the one person who knows how to use the profiler kind of like steps up and deals with it, and the rest of the team is like, oh, thank you, great hero, for saving the day. I don't know. Do you have advice for people who maybe don't have a lot of experience with profiling or performance, or like dealing with performance issues in a systematic way, for how they can get started with that and learn a little bit more about that?
I think embracing the profiling bit, like just trying to not necessarily having the full continuous profiling suite, just like having that, looking into your application code. There are a lot of tools in every language that basically you can dump the profile information and then have this flame graph and then check how the application basically performs in every aspect of it. So just having that curiosity to check how the code that you write, how it's actually performing, and you learn a lot of stuff. The code that you imagined is actually performing really well. It sucks probably in a lot of pieces, and just getting that understanding and knowledge, basically picking that method, renaming that variable, changing the way your flow and the method is executed can save you a lot of performance and make your code runs faster. So just having that interest basically to getting into the performance realm and trying to understand how your application and your code is basically executed, it will open your eyes to more things. And then once that's click, you would find yourself digging more, because that first iteration with why this actually behaving the way it is, and then you go and you check the language implementation of that feature, and you see, oh, it's using this, not that. And then the more you dig in, the more you find, oh, this is some of the best practices that you learn and improve. So it has the side effect, the positive side effect of you learning more about your tool suite, the language that you are using in your everyday job. You become more mastering of it, understanding it, or just making your code more performant, which is basically a great thing to have.
Yeah, absolutely. It reminds me of an experience. What you're saying reminds me of an experience I had with performance profiling, a small hobby application I made at one point, where I had like a big collection of images that I wanted to like filter and tag and like find images that were similar to each other. And having worked mostly on back end stuff or things without a GUI, it was also one of my first times, like, aside from like like having a graphical user interface, right? And it was something with like I do like a filtering operation on my big stream of objects, and it was really slow. And I'm like, aha, I know, like I know that in how I'm doing like these comparisons, like there's some like O(n) squared stuff in there. That's surely why it's slow. I should go and fix it. But I was like, wait, maybe I'll take a performance trace first. And it
Yeah.
was really just all about how I was using, like, because I just didn't know how to do GUI programming well, that I was just using the way I interacted with the user interface was screwing things up. I was like, oh, I just need to move this work off the GUI thread
Yeah.
essentially. And my assumptions about what the performance problem were completely wrong,
Correct.
and I could have spent plenty of time optimizing that and made no difference whatsoever to the actual user experience in the end. Yeah. Yeah. So
Similar experience from one of the open source maintainers of Job Runner. I think he's either Belgian or Dutch. You know him, Tim.
Flemish.
So he's,
Flemish.
say again?
Flemish.
Flemish.
Well,
I forgot the name. Sorry for that. But he's the maintainer of the Job Runner, a very cool open source library. And then he went to a conference and then simply attended a workshop about performance monitoring, run by the Italian guy Mario Fusco and another guy from Red Hat. So he attended the workshop, and then that knowledge he gathered from that 2 hours workshop applied them to his open source library. And he told me like this 2 hours workshop was worth the trip because he found
Yeah.
a lot of optimizations that he can bring to his already very powerful and optimized code source. So it just opened your eyes to a variety of things, and it challenged basically your assumptions about you, the knowledge that you have, the knowledge that you put into your code, and the code that you are executing. So it's really insightful.
Yeah, I do a lot of debugging, a lot of like fixing of problems after the fact. Then I will often like advise people, whether they're a current software engineer or like thinking about it, or a student, to like be disciplined, to like apply the scientific method to problem solving, right? To be very methodical, to not be fooled by your assumptions, right? To actually measure, observe, test, iterate. And what you're saying is just very philosophically in line with that, as the hardest things to debug are your own mistaken assumptions about how the system works. And having all this data about what the system is actually doing can go a long way towards correcting a mistaken mental model of how the system operates. Not mistaken, but just inaccurate, right? All models are wrong. Some models are useful, and if you have actual data about how your system behaves, you can make your mental model that much more useful, conform to the actual system that much better, and probably make debugging future problems easier, as you would know that, like, well, this area is called 1% of the time. It's probably not that relevant here.
Yeah, and then you can check, basically how frequent this method gets called, and then if you optimize that one bit, you can see that you just unlocked a lot of performance optimization from just changing one method or one line of code, which is it's just like the insights that it brings. It's really good.
So before I worked here, I had worked at Tableau, which makes data analysis and visualization software. So I'm kind of curious about what kind of both like what kind of tools you like to use to visualize some of this performance information and like build dashboards on, and like what kind of visualizations. I mean, I think we're all familiar with the flame chart is a really excellent one for doing performance analysis of traces. I wonder, when you are interacting with the data that you have collected from this continuous monitoring system, are you mostly looking at flame charts? Like, are you mostly like what are you looking at when you're interacting with the data collected by your continuous tracing system?
So flame graphs are one thing, really important. I think it's when you talk about profiling, flame graphs is the way to go. And there's also this table view, which basically it's really important. It's really good if you want to compare things, like previous and now. And you can see that this method used to consume this amount of CPU or this latency, and this now it's consuming this one. So if you have this side-by-side comparison, the table view, it's really important. So we are Grafana consumers.
Yeah,
So we use Grafana
we
a lot.
also like to use Grafana. Yeah.
Exactly. So anything that's hooked into Grafana, they have their own continuous profiling tool. It's called Periscope. I think they merged with another one. which is called Parka. So they merged and now into one, probably a third product. But Periscope empowered by Grafana, it's really good. I like Grafana. It's really fast, open source, so good. So
Yeah,
within that
good stuff.
ecosystem, yeah.
Yeah, right on. Right on. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, it's making me want to go profile some of our stuff. There's a few things that are a little bit slow in the CLI where it's like it's annoying how long it takes to sync a recipe catalog. Like there's some things where it's like it's not all the way to being a problem, but it's enough where I'm like this could be a little bit faster than it is. And I'm feeling motivated by your good example that I should look into that a little
Good
bit.
to hear.
Yeah. So what's kind of next? Do you see is this a practice that is actively evolving, that you're like learning new things, that you're applying new lessons to the practice of continuous instrumentation? Are there maybe things that you were doing a year ago that you have now like learned to improve upon in this continuous instrumentation practice?
Um, so the tools are evolving. I mentioned the learning bit of it, but it led me to a third thing that I was quite interested in, which is in the Linux kernel, because we mentioned that the technologies that were unlocked basically to have this continuous profiling is the agent bit, but also there is a technology within the Linux kernel called eBPF, and that's a really powerful thing that basically from interest in continuous profiling, oh, how does this thing work, how we can unlock it, and then you can see and it's like, oh, it's basically kernel calls. So I went into that and then just got really inspired by the ABPF, and it's a huge thing within the Linux community, a huge thing within the container community, that is basically making the Linux kernel programmable. And I think we are slowly moving to eBPF being the framework or the library or the language for continuous profiling tools. Linux is the dominant server or OS within the servers, application servers, and then it's there. It's getting a lot of momentum lately. The amount of applications in different types, like network optimizations, continuous profiling and performance, metrics gathering, and all of that within the eBPF stuff. So I think it's the continuous profiling bit is going into standardization more. And then eBPF is basically driving that to be the de facto kind of implementation or technology that is empowering that, because it's basically the Linux kernel. All the information that you need are already available. You just need to tag them, save them somewhere, and then send them to a place that they get filtered, tagged, and then shown in one way or the other.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, and that touches upon what you talked about before of the importance of setting up a data infrastructure that can accommodate all of this information, store it, filter it, and ultimately source for Grafana. What are you guys using for that? Do you have any recommendations there? Do you have like a Prometheus server, or like what are you what are your data storage for these profiles once you have as you extract them?
I think it's managed within the platform team. I'm not sure what solution they went with. To
Fair
be
enough.
honest, we're just like more on in the inside of it. We're just like benefiting from.
Gotcha.
It's like within one team that is managing it. I'm not sure what tool they are using in terms of that,
Fair enough.
because one team that is centralizing that effort and basically making sure
Right.
that everyone is served in the same way. We have also
Right.
Backstage, which is our one-stop shop for everything we need. So we're making sure that it's there, it's compliant, it's compatible. Everyone can access basically to it. So it's much more standardized. I didn't went into that path to check what we are actually
Sure.
using for it.
Sure. Yeah. I've talked to some of our customers who are fans of Backstage and its ability to interface or have plugins that can talk to many different systems and provide kind of a very customizable one-stop shop for information coming from source control and from your production environment and from your tracing. And if you just want to bring a bunch of stuff together in the same place, that they like it for that. Although I've no personal experience using this system. I've just heard some fun things about it. Does that make sense?
I mean, yeah, the idea of having that developer portal is it's really great. Before Spotify, I didn't know about it neither.
Mm-hmm.
But then once I joined, and then it's basically become our day-to-day, our destination. Basically, whenever you need something, you just go there. Be it documentation, finding information about teams, servers, getting all the information around the server, the services, where to go to, Grafana, where to go to, the logs, where to check that. It's basically our one-stop shop where we get all the information that we need.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. Are there any questions I haven't asked you that I should have asked you? Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that you or think would be cool for people to hear about that we haven't already touched upon?
I think we covered a lot of things. I'm not sure if I missed anything, but yeah. If happy to jump in another episode if we have a few questions from the audience afterwards.
Absolutely. I mean, if we think of follow-ups, we'll let you know for sure. How about you, Tim? Did you anything you wanted to ask that you haven't had a chance to?
No, it's like that's as always. I'd be curious to hear what the next thing is that you're gonna be working on, but I'm gonna be hopeful that we see each other at a conference soon, and then I'll hear all about it over there. So,
Maybe DevOps.
Yeah, you'll have to have an updated report for him of how well shouting at Spotify from the shower is going for you. If the latency is acceptable between you telling it to stop and not.
I'd love to help you, Tim. So let's chat afterwards. I want to understand what's the issue with your speaker.
Yeah, sure. All good.
Wonderful.
Premium support.
Yeah. It doesn't get any better than that. Yeah, direct line. Yeah, it reminds me that my neighbor works on Microsoft Teams, and every now and then I have trouble getting it to start up. When I join a customer call, I gotta go yell at him.
You mean Microsoft Teams, the tool for the calls?
Yeah, for video.
Wow.
I don't know precisely what part of it he works on, but he mentioned in passing that he it was on that team. So yeah, I gotta get some premium support.
It's one of those tools where if I see that there's a Microsoft Teams link, I join it 5 minutes early just to help through all the hoops of logging in again and back out and switching, and just to be sure that you're done.
Yeah, needs a little extra overhead sometimes. For some reason, just clicking join doesn't work. But anyway, we're not here to talk about Microsoft Teams in particular. Guy for Spotify is like, well, I don't know what to do with this. Well, good stuff, Mohammed. Thanks so much for coming on. Really interesting conversation. Have we posted the video of Mohammed's presentation at Code Remix?
Yeah, I think it's live already.
Excellent. Yeah, we should. If anyone who hasn't seen that, including me, should go watch it because this has been a great conversation. Excellent. You found it, Tim. Wonderful. It's been a great conversation. Thanks so much for coming on, Mohammed. Really interesting stuff. I'm gonna go try some of this stuff out.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for showing up week in, week out for this great podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. we do what we can.
Great work so far.
All right. Well, see everyone next week. Thanks everyone all for another edition of Code Remix Weekly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.